I just read Educated by Tara Westover. This is a memoir, and I don't read a ton of memoirs. I think this is like the third or fourth one I've ever read, but I highly, highly recommend you read this. Tara Westover is a woman who was raised in Idaho, and she was raised as a Mormon. Her father was a very extreme, very conservative Mormon. Even the Mormons living around them weren't Mormon enough for him. He despises the government. He does not trust doctors. He does not send his kids to school. And in this book, she documents everything from her childhood growing up to her early experiences away from home, through her formal schooling in college, her rocky and rough and complicated relationship with her family over the years. She actually focuses a ton on her family and their dynamic. It is a very interesting one. It could be very triggering to some people. Her and her siblings were traumatized time after time growing up. They were put at risk literally every day living under his roof. It was a very, very negative, complicated, and traumatic family situation. Some of the things that happened to Tara and her family over the years were so incredibly insane. I literally can't believe they physically survived all of it. I was reminding myself a lot while reading this that, hey, these are real, actual people, and this really actually happened to them. And that just makes it 10 times even more crazy, because I just, as a person, can't fathom these events happening to me. And the fact that it happened to these people and they made it through it and survived is just mind-blowing in some parts. I also really loved this book because I found it very relatable. Not to get too into religion, but I did grow up in a very conservative church, not nearly as conservative and extreme as Tara's father, obviously, but definitely what one would consider conservative. My brother and I at the time were the only two kids in our church that were not homeschooled. We went to public school. And I remember noticing at a very young age that that was one of the biggest differences between me and the rest of the kids in the congregation. I no longer go to that church or any church, but I think that is kind of just the journey that Tara was on throughout this book as well. Like I said, my version of this in my childhood was not as extreme, but definitely there were parallels between the two, and I really reflected on it after reading, which I don't do when reading just regular fiction books. I think this one really had me thinking, and it really had me feeling seen. Overall, I took from this book that education is a very, very powerful tool that absolutely no one should be denied. I already knew that, but this book really hammered it in, the realities of it. Education isn't just what happens in a classroom. It also comes from lived experiences. It comes from other family members. It helps to shape your opinions, your beliefs, your view of yourself, your view of the world. It is very, very powerful, and this book proves that.